Back at it again. Here we are. Two more champions. Number 1 is Inero, the Burned. Now, picture Inero as a guy who would come from the fiery depths of the underworld. He also has large hands that are very clawed and flamed. Upon flamed. And you'll see why. His passive. Inero has slow auto attacks. Very slow. But it's okay. So because he has two hands that are flamey. Anyways, basically, so he'll do 2 attacks in like a good amount of time. But to be able to do those 2 attacks once again will take like a whole nother like 2 seconds or something. Or like, yeah. But here's the good thing about why his attacks are slow. Anyways, like what's gonna happen, because you can't just have slow attacks and be like, oh, just because they look cool, whatever, right? No, when he attacks a champion, one, it goes upon the champion, and it actually kind of like envelops them in the hand, like causing them to be burned, damaged, and to do damage. So like they're right here, and then you attack them, it's gonna hurt people behind them as well, like right here. So like it'll hurt more people, and then also it will leave a trail because they're being burned, and they're just gonna leave a small trail for a little duration, and so he can do this twice. So it's like kind of epic. Anyways, his cue is he takes his hand and he starts forming a spiral. This creates a beam which is in the target direction, right? If a champion is hit or it doesn't have to be a champion, sorry. If a target is hit or a target walks into the beam, they are dragged back in slowly, like a black hole kind of thing. And they're dragged in slowly. Now, it's not so slow that they can't exit, but for the first the minimum duration is like 1 second where they actually can't leave. They're being pulled in that whole time. And after that, then they're slowly able to walk out of the beam. But yes, and it's a pretty good pole. Depending on how far they are, the longer the pole is. The shorter they are away from you, the shorter the pole will be. But yeah, that's a way that he can kind of get closer. And this is what comes in is his W, and that he just fires both hands at once onto a target. And this is not an aim thing, this is a targeted thing, so he can target a champion and both hands at the same time, doing all the burning damage, but only doing the envelop thing once, and then the trail is also not going to be twice as long. It's just the same duration, but he will do twice the burning damage and twice the damage because, well, he gets to fire both hands at once. Then we have his E, where he has 2 charges of this, is where he makes a fist, and he can shake it for half a second and then throw it, and this will, upon impact on the ground or a champion, it'll burst into a circle of flame, or like kind of like a spiral, kind of just like go from the center and it's like start going around and kind of just like spreading like a fire does. And he has 2 charges of this, and of course, if he hits a champion with the initial toss of it, or an enemy, I just say champion because that's what you kind of target. But anyways, that will do more damage than what you would get if you just hit the ground. And that just burns him as well. Ultimate. Now, here's the cool part of him. Inero the Burn is from the underworld, so therefore he can summon a hellhound. So he takes his hands, he goes, and it takes a second to create a portal. After this, a demon hound launches out of the portal. So he gets to aim it, and then after that aiming, it'll come out and it'll launch itself, and biting and attacking the first. Going through minions, it will target champions. Targeting champions and things like that. Another thing with his ultimate is that it's kind of like a Tibbers or like a summon. So he gets to summon a bear and then summon a dog, hound, whatever, and they will stay on the battlefield and attack with you. Now, the thing about this hound is that it can be re-targeted to a champion if he uses W on a champion. If he uses W on a champion, the hound will immediately jump or lunge at them, therefore attacking them again. Anyways, that is Inero the Burned. Next we have Swant the Swisher. And you'll see why again. Swant the Swisher is he likes to swish. And that's not like a basketball hoop. That is like swish. Like with like he has a chain, and then he has this fancy little sword at the end of this chain. And he's really just elegant in the way that he uses this sword. So Swant the Swisher, his passive is that after he uses an ability on a champion, he will swish his sword over his head like a helicopter. And this, if he hits anything after this, he will gain 25% movement speed and 4 seconds of 5% lifesteal. Now these attack speed and movement speed things can stack, so he can get 25% for 2 seconds, but he can do like Q, W, E, and you'll see later on that it'll kind of work out with your kit. Anyways, he can get up to as much movement speed as he wants as long as he's hitting something after he uses an ability on a champion, or really like a successful ability on anyone, but mainly a champion. Like if he's in the jungle, an epic monster will count. Minions are like the only thing that won't really count. Cannon minion will though. So yeah, just the little guys, just it won't count. But and then he gets 4 seconds of 5% lifesteal, and they all can stack. So let's go into his abilities that can help him get stacks of movement speed and attack speed. Not attack speed, lifesteal. His first one is that he thrusts the blade forward, hitting a target location in front of him, or anywhere around him. And so he launches it, it lands in the thing, and then he pulls it back. After this pull, it drags across the ground, like cracking the ground, causing more damage rather than the initial impact. This will also slow enemies by 10% for 3 seconds. What? Then is his W. Oh, by the way, Q is a double cast, so he can kind of do it. He can have 2 stacks of his passive. Basically, his passive is just a basic attack after using an ability, by the way. And yes, he can get stacks of using his passive and attack speed, or basic attacks after he uses his ability, like his Q, where he does 2 things before he can even basic attack. His W is that he swings his blade around his head. He swishes again, whoosh, and then he, if he hits a champion, he can pull them in, but only champions and large minions and monsters, of course, not little minions. But he can pull them in, and not like a huge pull, but just pull them in. Anyways, this will help him get his ability attacks off that he can help in his passive. His E is that he smashes the blade into the ground. This will root enemies for just half a second. Actually, no. Sorry. This will slow enemies for another 25%, so you can get a 35% slow on them. And then what will happen is, so you recast your E, you will send your sword back up into the air, and it'll fall back where you are. If that does happen, then you stun them for another 1.5 seconds. So you can get like a slow, and then another slow, and then a stun. But the E is kind of hard. You have to like be right on top of them, and so yeah, that's why you'd want to swish. You'd want to E and then swish with your W, pull them in, and then stun them with your E, and then you can do some basic attack passive things to get your movement speed and lifesteal back up. And here is why you want your passive and you want the attack speed. Ultimate. So he starts helicoptering over his head. He starts at a small duration, getting momentum, and he goes faster and faster and wider and wider and wider. And this will not really pull people in, but it will slow them for another 20%. So he can get a about 50% slow if he times everything right. If he Qs them, pulls them in, gets a 10% slow, E's them, W's them, swishes them in, E's them, and then starts his ultimate. He can get a 50% slow for a while. And by the way, slows on this guy will just like not restart, but like will be extended a second. When he puts it to slow, new second of slowing. Anyways, his ultimate, he swings overhead. But here's the thing, you can't just be like swinging overhead. He's not a very good double tasker. Anyways, his movement speed is slowed down by 100%. So if he cannot be moving, so basically a normal cast of ultimate would just be he's standing there and then people will be slowed and hit. But if he has his passive all the way up, he can basically move normally when he's using his ultimate. So he can just do anything he wants. And he can still use like Yomohos. He can use like Ghost or anything, you know, like just get faster. So a lot of swishing, a lot of pulling, and a lot of swishing. Really a lot of swishing actually. And that's the cool thing about his passive too, is that after each ability you swish around yourself, which you can do damage to a lot of people around you in an area rather than a single target, therefore causing for extreme destruction across the board. Anyways, that is Swant the Swisher and Inero the Burned.